Andrew Shumbley says that the instruments of music, which he spells like a K so that it looks a lot like magic spelled with a K, are an important part of anyone's practice. I think he connects it to shamanic kind of practice in which music is used to envelop a person in a trance-like state. So I have assembled to get together here on my floor, the floor of my garage, some of the musical instruments and noisemakers that I use in my practice, which, because my practice is in outward signs very Buddhist, and Buddhist practice considers music to be one of the major offerings to deities. These are all Buddhist symbols, and I've got quite a collection here. In case you too are interested in these kinds of things and you don't want to go doing what I've done and spend several years buying expensive things from every corner of the globe, you can look into my collection here, see what they look like, see what the operation is. So first of all, there is this is the standing bell. These things are usually known as a singing bowl these days when you look at them. They come in sizes a lot smaller than this and sizes way bigger than this. There are singing bowl aficionados, who, especially people who like the sound bath thing, which is popular these days. It's a bell. It's just a bell. It's a bell that goes up as opposed to one that goes down. They have a deep, nice noise, and they last for a long time. They will always come with a striker. The striker usually has a leather covered end, or a soft end of some sort, and a hard end, so that you can make long, soft noises or harsher, louder ones. And they really last. A bell like this is really good for announcing things, because they last. I don't know if you can pick it up on the microphone, but it is still very much going, because the sound goes and goes and goes. It really brings you into the space. This is a different thing. We have entered a door. It moves your mind in interesting ways. The reason they're called singing bowls, as I'm sure anyone watching this is aware, is that they sing when a little bit of vibration is applied to the corner. Which is fun to sing to, by the way. I use it often as a drone note to chant to. So the singing bowl, especially one that's about, I don't know, that you can easily ball your fist up in and stick inside, I think is a really helpful tool for anybody on anybody's altar. They do make little tiny ones. They're usually about $30 for a little one about that big. And they might be $20 or so for even smaller ones, and they get up into the hundreds for like big guys. Well, I think this one was $60. There's nothing fancy written on it. It's just a brass bowl, but that'll give you a ballpark. These are Vajra bells, and so there's a very common Buddhist symbol. I didn't bring a full one in here, but it is a Vajra, and I will move it in. It is that little metal piece, that little metal flower, and that is a common ancient Indian symbol. You do, I believe, still see them in various Hindu groups, but they're particularly used in esoteric Buddhist stuff, and you see them often on the top of bells, and you usually will see them sold as a pair. You will see a double-ended sort of stick that has two of these on either end, and then sold opposite it will be a bell with just the one on the handle of the bell. I have a bit of a treat here. The school of Buddhism that I was taught under is Japanese, but the tools of esoteric Buddhism that you can get here in the United States are not typically Japanese ones. They're hard to find. You usually have to buy them from a manufacturer in Japan and have them shipped over here. It's just unbelievably expensive. But the Tibetan style ones, which are close, is what most practitioners of Japanese and Chinese esoteric Buddhism sort of have to make do with. I believe even in Japan and China, that the traditional Japanese style ones and Chinese style ones are a little less common for your average, run-of-the-mill occultist like me. What I've got here are two bells in the Tibetan style, one a little larger and more formal, and then one a little smaller and more portable, and then the same basic idea in the Japanese style. And they might look from the distance there pretty much the same. They are fairly different. The Tibetan style one, I'm not sure how much of this will pop up on the camera. The Tibetan style one is believed to be a mandala. It is a specific piece of sacred art that is quite lavished. There are a series of little vajras around the corner here. There are a number of Tibetan letters which are Sanskrit seed syllables on the top. It is essentially a flower when viewed head on in this way. And even this smaller bell, which is even harder to see, which has little tiny etchings on it, and says in Tibetan, Om Mani Padme Hum on the side there. But even this one has that roundabout design. These Tibetan bells tend to be less than perfect. They're made quickly, and they have a very harsh clanging noise, which is on purpose. That suits their use just fine. So the large one. When you use these bells, typically you use them in the left hand and you ring them just like crazy. You pick up a particular prayer or a sort of climactic moment and then and the smaller one is very similar in that same kind of the Japanese ones do have the same kind of mandala thing. It's much simpler. It's, again, I'm not sure how much my camera will pick up. It's just a lotus flower surrounded by a nice little circle there. And then the sides are just plain. The Japanese rite tends to take a lot more time. So to get to the bell section, and the bell is used sort of intermittently. So what you tend to do is you kind of build to the offering point when the offering of music is given, and then the bell is rung very solemnly and plainly in these back and forth motions like so. You notice that high, clear note. These are handmade specifically to get that very specific kind of feel to them. And then this little one that I've got is a pilgrim's bell. Usually you'd put this on a bag or something. It's also got the lotus on the top, but it's way too faint for me to get in the camera. And this one makes the most piercing note that I've got. You can hear it through walls. Bells have a lot of functions. In Western stuff, they're often said to begin things, end things. They're used as sort of announcements. I tend to like the idea that they collect the mind into the moment very strongly and frighten away demons. You could say these two things are the same thing. They are a powerful joiner of this world and the next, I think. And they're very pleasant to listen to. And so the idea of a god, or a worshipped spirit, or a force within you, taking heed when they're wrong, I think really resonates very strongly. Before I go, I wanted to mention the prices of these guys are, you can really tell the difference between the Japanese, again, like I said earlier, and the Tibetan style in price. The Tibetan ones, I think this one, which came with the Vajra, was $40, and I believe this one was $15. Nothing, right? That's very, very cheap for something nice like this. This I bought was really old and was on an antique auction market, and they had no idea what it was going for. This was almost $200. A new one of these usually costs about $600, more like $1,000. This little guy a friend picked up for me in Japan. I believe it was about $100 to $120, and they can go pretty easily for. I think that's about the regular price of them from a supply store. You usually have to find a place that's willing to ship them to the United States, or you have to go to Japan yourself to find them. Like I said, Japanese religious goods are bonkers expensive. If you can make do, I recommend making things yourself, or buying their appropriate Indo-Tibetan comparison. The sound is different, but not that much. All right, next, I'm going to talk about drums. I've never been much of a big drum guy until recently. As European shamanism has started to become a more common current among Western occultists looking to build back in their traditional European roots with things that speak to them, you tend to see drums become more common. I think for a long time drums were seen as sort of a staple of primitive cultures and spiritualities, and those attitudes have thankfully started to kind of fall apart, and so we're seeing them return, because they have a real power. They have an incredible power. The rhythm, the beat of a heart, the beat of a dance, the beat of the rhythms of sun up, sundown, breath in, breath out. There's so much to our life that feels this sort of polarity between noise and non-noise when the rhythm of a drum is beating. And they have an incredible sort of droning feeling to them. The type you tend to see these days are these large, very wide drums that are held underneath, sort of sideways. I'm sure you've seen them, and then just hit with a mallet. They're Stone Age tools. They're very simple. I don't own one. I have no idea how much they cost. They're huge and unwieldy. I don't like them. So I've got two Tibetan-style Buddhist drums. In Japan, you tend to see the taiko drums, and they also have a number of other little hand drums that are used here and there. In Buddhist ritual, it's similar to the taiko drums. It's a big sideways thing that you hit with a mallet, very similar to this. And you usually hire a guy, or another priest, to go sit over there with it and smack the thing. While you, the main practitioner, are working on the main site. I don't like either of these options. Also, taiko drums are wildly expensive. So here are two Tibetan-style drums that were originally sourced in India. They're actually the same kind of drum. This is kind of the more standard form of it. This is called a damaru. They have two heads, as you can see. These heads are usually green. sort of in traditional form, they would have been white, and then over the ages, or especially when they were first made, they slowly turn green because of bacteria. And nowadays, when they don't have that problem anymore, the green color is still part of the symbolism, I guess. All of these tools have endless, you could write books about the symbols that people have read into them. But because of that, you often get them painted green like this. This, I think, was about $50. These noisemakers are, you that's how they're operated. It's very simple. They are loud. They're loud as hell. You can use these oftentimes as wooden clappers. They're great to just, if you need like I said, a segment in your ritual that has a sort of climactic moment to it. That feeling of where you just that's what it's for. They're used like that very often. And they have these little tails. These are mostly used because they are sometimes played by dancers. And so the weaving back and forth of them, even if you buy one and have no intent of dancing with it, the knowledge of that sort of movement of it, that sort of snake-like movement of it, is something that's very mesmerizing. Now, if you want something that's more rhythmic, in the severance rite of Tibetan Buddhism, Chu, they use a different kind of drum, which is basically the same style, just much bigger and round. And they are, these drums go for quite a bit more. They tend to be a few $100s. They have a long tail. A lot of people will add objects to these tails. This one's not. This is a new item for me, so I haven't added anything to it. I love this thing. It's incredible. It's beaten slowly. And it has a real drone to it. I'm sorry, it's on the hard to see. When you play it front end to back end so that you can really get the distance going there. So this is expensive. I don't believe there's really an alternative to one that works as slowly and sounds as beautifully as these, but I would say that this one, out of all of these things, is the one that's most worth dropping bucks on. So I hope that gives you some ideas of what's available out there, what all the different little tiny kinds are. And if you are interested as an occultist, a sorcerer, even if you're a regular old Buddhist who needs to use these things and for some reason your teacher is not giving you a good idea of what's what, you want to know what they sound like ahead of time, what the different kinds sound like. I hope I've given you a good idea of what's out there. And be blessed, and may God walk with you. Bye-bye.